Hi, I'm George, welcome to GMakes, and this is how to turn any image into geometry using geometry nodes in Blender. So let's get right into it. So here I have a fresh new instance of Blender, a new scene, and I'm just going to select everything and delete it all. We do not need any of it. What we're going to do instead is we are going to start with an image as a plane. So we are going to import an image to use as our plane. So we're going to do Shift A, images as planes. We're going to find our folder, and I'm thinking since it's March 10th, Mario Day, we choose everyone's favorite Nintendo character, everyone's favorite Italian plumber, and we choose Luigi. So there is Luigi, he's right down there. I'm in material preview mode so we can see him. Look at him. Beautiful. And so now what we're going to do is we're not actually going to use this image. All right, we're going to use a different image, but we need to know what this one looks like so we can know what image to use. That was a very strangely constructed sentence, but basically we're going to take this image right here of our wonderful Luigi, and we are going to make sure we have a matte or a masked version of it. What that means is we just need a version that is only black and white. I'm not going to do that in Blender just because it's kind of convoluted, and the whole point is to make this as simple as possible. I've already got one made. You can go ahead and use whatever photo editing program you like, or drawing image manipulation software. I used Photoshop, just real simple, select everything, fill tool. You could use Clip, you could use Paint.net if that's still around. Anything you want. You could use Microsoft Paint if you really care, if you want to spend time tracing out some things. But I'm just having this boy right here as reference. Everyone's favorite Nintendo character, Luigi. I'm actually going to hide that and make sure it doesn't show up in our render. And I'm going to, again, Shift A, images as planes, go back, and I'm going to actually choose, you saw it right there a little bit, this Luigi black and white image. And there we go, we got our matte. Now, when you make this mask or this matte version, you want to make sure that anything you want the image to have, so anywhere you want there to be geometry, is white, as Luigi is right here, and anywhere you don't want geometry is black, is the color, because that is, again, if you know like a color ramp node, black is 0 and white is 1, so that's binary, so it's no and yes, or 0 is no, 1 is yes. So you can also have it inverted and then just mix things around when we get to the geometry nodes, but this is just the easiest way to do that. So you want to make sure you have your image. You want to make sure that whatever you want to keep, wherever you want geometry, is white in the matte, and everything else is black. You could also use alpha, but that can get a little funky, so I recommend just keeping it black and white, at least for this image. So I'm going to scale this up. It's relatively small, and it's always easier to use a lot of things in Blender unless you're doing something to scale. Just scale things up to make it easier. So there we go. I just hit S and 5. I'm actually going to make sure I have my screencast keys on for everybody. There we go. They'll be right down here in the corner. So yes, I just did S and 5 to scale it times 5. I'm going to stick in this top-down view. You could also rotate this if you need to, but I'm just going to keep it right here. And now we're going to get into using geometry nodes. So we are going to make a new window. I'm going to then go to my geometry node editor with my Luigi selected, and I'm going to hit new. And now we get to make a very fun node tree. Again, this is all geometry nodes, it's all procedural, and we get to do some cool stuff with it. So where do we start? Well, we start with a lot of geometry node things. We start with instancing some points. So we are going to distribute points on faces, which again is just going to put them everywhere. So that's not really what we want. Instead, we want to make sure we have something first to instance, because these are just points right now. So I'm going to instance on points. Instance on points. There we are. And I'm going to use cubes for this tutorial. You can use any mesh. You could make an object and use that. But I just want to use cubes for something a little bit down the line, which you'll see. So I'm just going to search for cube, grab a cube, and plug that into my instances. And there we go. We got some big old cubes. Lovely. This isn't what we want, obviously. So how do we get what we want? First things first, we need to tell the program, we need to tell Blender where we want things distributed. So if you've seen my one of my 2 previous tutorials on geometry nodes and using them for procedural transitions, kind of a pixel transitions, this is a very similar procedure with that, because we are going to grab a capture attribute node, stick that right in the middle, and then also grab a position node. This is just telling it to take all the values and find each individual, like get a coordinate basically for each point. But we don't want these on float because that's a single value. We want vector. I'll have to plug the position back in. And there we go. Again, didn't do anything yet because it's not plugged into anything. But we're going to get to that because how we're going to control where these are distributed is actually by the scale, because again, we have those values of black and white, 0 and 1. So where it's 0, we want the scale to be 0, and where it's white, we want the scale to be whatever we determine it to be. So 1 times whatever the color ramp, or maybe the multiply node, as I prefer to use, says it is. So we're going to start that off by just grabbing a separate XYZ, again, because we now have a vector here. And we are going to then grab a combine XYZ. That's RGB. We want to combine XYZ. Combine XYZ. We'll just plug all these in. But before we fully get to using that, I just have that set up. We are going to show the general concept of this, which is an image texture node. Which is weird because we're not in the texture or shader editor, so why is there an image texture node? Well, there's brick textures and stuff too, so that's why. But this node operates a little differently because it just uses some very weird coordinates. It's a very weird node with not a ton of uses, but this is one very specific use for it. So we're going to do that, and you can see I have my scale here. If I plug my color into the scale, nothing happens. It actually, well, something happens, everything disappears, and that's because we have nothing really telling it what the scale is, and also the thing that's telling the scale is the image, and there is no image. So we don't even need to open a new image though, because since we've imported our Luigi black and white matte, I can just do this click, drop down, and there we go, Luigi black and white. And so now you can see things are weird, funky. We got our cube, but where is it being? It's large, it doesn't really make sense. And that is partly because we need a color ramp right here to tell it we need black and white. And this will also where you can switch your values if your mat's opposite as it should be. And then we're also going to, like I said, I'm just going to grab a math node and change it to multiply so that we can multiply this. And we want it some small value. Let's do 0.1 for now. You can also clamp it if you want. Makes it a little simpler. We can pump up that density. And you can see we're getting kind of 4 pockets of things. And why is that? Well, that's because this image texture is set to repeat. So it's repeating it 4 times along our plane. So if we set that to clip, it will only do this upper right. And you can see that's generally the shape of our Luigi, but it's not the right size. And this is where this vector comes in. So if we plug this vector in, you'll see nothing happens, but now we have control over these coordinates, which is very, very useful. So this is also why I imported this version of our Luigi in, because now we can take this. We'll also scale this up by 5 so it matches. Also, I did forget to, but I'm going to make sure my Luigi is selected, Control A, and just scale. There we go. That already fixed a couple things. So should have done that first thing. I just forgot to do it. Make sure you do that. But you can see this is really starting to be in the shape of a Luigi. It's just small and squashed and in the corner. We don't want that. So again, this is where things get a little convoluted from this method. A little finicky is maybe a better word for it. But we're going to add a join geometry node. Put this right here at the end because we're going to plug our original image geometry all the way into there. And there you can see, you could also, I guess, just use, I want to look at Luigi's face, so we'll just keep using Luigi's face. Look at the beautiful boy. Look at him. Look at him. So how do we fix this? Stop getting distracted by Luigi's beautiful blue eyes. Well, we're going to go here to the separate XYZ, and we're going to Shift A again to find a new node, and that node is going to be not a math node, but a vector math node. And we're going to make this into an add, and we're going to click it right there, as I kind of did semi-accidentally, into that X spot. And we want this to stay add, because add will control our left to right position, or since we're along that, because we're along the x-axis, so it'll control the position along the x-axis. And so we're going to make sure all these vectors are to 1, just so that they get nicely positioned. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it down onto my y as well. And so now we can also control the y. And there we go. It's set down to 1, 1, 1, -1, whatever you want to call it. But it should be the positive sections, because everything's 1. And now to actually fully control it, I'm going to again duplicate that add node. Give me that. Set that in, except I'm going to change it now to multiply. And this will control the stretch, how wide our boy is. And now I'm going to also duplicate that and put it again for the y. And the reason I'm doing this and not like a multiply add node is order of operations is a little important here. You can just use a multiply add, but I prefer to translate it and then stretch it, as opposed to the multiply add, which is stretching it and then translating it. This is just a little cleaner for me, and I like having the two separate to help me visualize. But you can go ahead and use a multiply add if you want to, I suppose. But so I'm going to go ahead and try to make this boy with all my particles about in the middle where he should be. And I'm just using the top one again, because that's my x-axis for this x. Stretch him out. And we're going to move him over a little bit more. As far as I know, there's not an exact way to do this. There's probably some complicated formula you can find, but I'm not doing this often enough to have to find that formula. So I'm fine being finicky and just kind of eyeballing it. If anyone in the comments finds the way, finds the method, or knows the formula, feel free to comment it. Feel free to let me know, and I can make an update. If I keep doing this, maybe I'll make an update, because I'll finally cave in and spend a whole bunch of time finding that formula. Either way, I'm just going to click through until I get this boy looking right. And I'm going to cut to that part, and I'll see you on the other end of that warp pipe. Peace. Here we go. And we're back. All right, so as you can see, I've fitted Luigi over. He completely covers the photo, and he's made up of a whole bunch of objects. So, I mean, that's the basic, that's the thing. That's how to make any image into geometry using geometry nodes in Blender. You've done it. Congratulations. So again, that's using image texture to a color ramp just to combine. This isn't super necessary, but does add a little more control over your image. And then you can also use the color ramp to determine the scale, or you can just use a multiply right here. I have it set to 0.1. That might change in a little bit, but that all is going to scale again. In your image where it is white, there will be things. Where there is black, there will be nothing. 0 and 1. Black is 0, white is 1. And then we have the scale and moving and changing this to make sure it fits using this position capture attribute and separate XYZ in these vector math nodes. But the last thing we're going to do before I get into a couple fun things, as if this isn't fun, is we're going to just add a material to this, make it a little more visually interesting so we can kind of see what's going on. So we're going to go to our shader editor. I'm going to use the original material for this, the default one, just the material, I guess is what you call it. Make sure that's selected, otherwise your image texture might be selected. And we're going to choose, of course, Luigi's signature color, purple. And we're going to make sure it's a nice, good one, maybe a little darker. There we go. We'll bump the roughness up pretty far just so it's kind of soft and nice to the eyes. But nothing's changed, and that's because we have to do the fun geometry node thing of setting the material. So set material node. We're going to put this after the join geometry, and we're going to choose our material. And there we go. Everything's purple. Wonderful, wonderful purple. All right. And again, I have nothing. Let me quickly pull up an HDRI. Color. We're going to environment texture, and we're going to open. And I'm going to choose this beautiful one from HDRI Haven. And there we go. And we can turn off our Luigi background. It's Luigi. It's the man. We'll even go to cycles, GPU compute, and we'll turn on transparent background. And look we've got him. Everyone's favorite Nintendo character and his signature color, Luigi. But I hear you saying, I want to make the image control the texture. I want the image to control the geometry, not this matte black and white BS. I say, that's very mean of you to say that to me. We don't know each other. But that's what I'm going to do next. So if you don't want just a solid color and don't want random colors or whatever, and you want your image to actually control to make some cool towers and stuff, or control the scale of your things, that's also very straightforward. In fact, it's only one more node, really. Is first things first, we are going to duplicate our image texture. And this is partly why I already imported this Luigi texture. But if you don't, you can select it here. But since it's already in my blend file, I can just drag this drop down and click my original Luigi file. And now we can do the wonderful thing. That's very, very simple. We take another separate X, Y, and Z. Actually, we don't want to separate one. We want a combine X, Y, Z. We place this before the vector. X value, you can see there's nothing. But because these are both 0, but we want to just plug this value into all of those, and that should get us back. But now you can see if we control the X, that's that way. You don't want that. So we'll set that back to normal. If we control Y, that's going to control the stretch of it. I don't really want that. Again, I want kind of like a city like towers. So I want to control the Z. And look at, there we go. We can make him tall. But again, this is controlling everything as one. And I don't want that. I want the color to control this. So I'm going to join my color node from this image. Again, it's my colored image of Luigi. And this is where it becomes important that you have an actual PNG. I'm going to probably do a cut here because I forgot that that image is not an actual PNG. It's a fake one. But we'll see what happens. Yep, there we go. So it is controlling it. But again, if I set this to repeat. Oh, it actually did work. All right. So maybe it was a true PNG all along. The PNGs we made along the way were the real ones all along. So here we go. We have it controlling. But you can't really tell that's what's happening because it's all purple. So how do we change this? Well, pretty straightforward. First things first, we can just choose our Luigi texture. But that looks real weird for a couple of reasons. One is that it's using the UV. So we have to go to our Luigi. Here's our wonderful Luigi glossy PNG. Control T to open this. And we're going to switch it from UV to generated. But now we're getting the Luigi on every single point, and that's not what we want. Like, it's just the PNG on everything. So we have to tell the program that we want each of these cubes to be its own individual object. So we have to realize instances before our set material. And there we go. And as you can see, it's not perfect. That image texture is not perfect because it's not an actual PNG. But I'm too lazy to go and cut out my Luigi again, so we're going to stick with this. But you can see it does control. Luigi's pretty colorful character. So you can see he's got a couple of different shades of green on him and all that. But you know, he's still pretty one note. So what if I wanted to make him a little bit better? Well, first things first, I'm going to take down a couple of these instances by changing from random to Poisson disk. And you can see there we go, we've already got a little bit better. And this distance, I'm going to make it something like 0.03, something real small. And my density, bump that way up. 300's actually looking quite good. I was going to do 3000, but I actually like 300. And you can see that gave us just a little bit more of that randomness on all the geometry because there's a little bit of distance between everything. Maybe we could even make that more. Yeah, there we go. And if you don't want things to intersect, that's something you want to play with and maybe make the scale real big. And the last thing I'm going to do to kind of get this board going is maybe mess around with separating some of my color channels. So this is where we've done separate XYZ. Now we're going to do separate not XYZ, now I have the habit of that. Separate RGB into our image, and we're going to combine RGB there as well. So now you can see what happens if you just choose the red channel, if you just choose the green channel, or if you just choose the blue channel. And of course, you can choose two. We could do green and blue. We could do green and red. And that's another way to add variety. And of course, as always, you could take a math node and you could add or set this to multiply and then really mess around with a specific channel. But I'm not going to do that. I'll just keep those two channels going. And now I can see like, oh, that's cool. I like the city kind of idea, but I don't really want this like weird thing like it's going up and down. Well, you could mess around with translate instances and try to get the origin points to somewhere good, or have the fun time of just inserting a plane. Oh my god, look at that. Look what that did. Oh, it fixed it. Oh my god, George, you're such a genius. And I'm even going to tab, select this vertex, and extrude that upward. Get out of here. I want to go back here. I'm going to, in my edit mode, I'm going to select this edge. I'm going to extrude it upward because I'm such a genius. Oh my god, I'm going to go back to preview mode. Oh, and I'm on this little plane. I'm going to apply a bevel modifier. Oh my god, look at that. I can even control A to apply the scale and it will even do it even better. And I can bump this up to like, I don't need that many, 5 and shade smooth. Oh my god, maybe do 10. Oh, look at that. Oh, look how beautiful. We got a little photo set up for our beautiful man, our beautiful Luigi. Oh, but now I'm seeing some things through him, George. How do I fix that? We have this boy. We have this, remember? And if it was a true PNG, it'd work even better. But you can just use this and set it behind because look, it looks like one piece. Oh no, he's actually 3D. Whoa, how amazing. Oh my god, mind blown. Anyway, I'm going to set up kind of as a reveal of this exact thing. I'm going to set up a little animation to close out this video with. So we're going to cut through me doing that, maybe fast forward. I'm going to take the Mario Kart tiny little speed shroom. And we're going to vroom vroom all the way through this, hit the booster pad, go through, and I'll see you at the other side of that. So, vroom vroom, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so that scene is done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and everything. The final render should be popping up on screen right now. We're going to go through kind of this fun tower city of the images, the little pixels, the color. We're going to come through and we're going to see everyone's favorite Nintendo character, Mario. Wait a minute, that's... Oh. Oh no!